Alright, so before the 2026 Formula 1 season even started, everyone already had their predictions. Who was going to dominate, who was going to struggle, and who's going to surprise us. And now that we've gotten 7 races in, now including Barcelona, I thought it'd be a good time for us to look at those previous expectations we had set in Barcelona Pre-season testing and compare them to what actually happened now in the Barcelona Grand Prix. So let's break it down and see who called it right, who got it wrong, and who's going to owe some apologies around the F1 community. So heading into 2026, this was still a massive year for F1. Brand new regulations, brand new cars, and even some new teams as well. Essentially, everything started from ground zero, so the entire pecking order people got used to in last year, 2025, reset and basically meant nothing going into 2026. Preseason testing, that took place in Barcelona all the way back in January. And although it needs to be taken with a grain of salt, what teams show in preseason testing, or what they don't show, really does set the tone for what we expect to see going into the first race this year in Australia. Here's the thing though, and I'll say this, preseason testing is like F1's biggest poker game. Everyone's trying to pretend like they're not the fastest and start pointing fingers at people who they think are, just to take the heat off themselves. Because of this, everyone already started talking about their championship predictions. Now, before a single lap was even set in the season, everyone and their mothers had George Russell set for the favorite going to the championship. And you can't blame him. George was on his 5th season in Mercedes, so he's got the experience, and Mercedes set the benchmark leaving testing, so they were pretty much everyone's target to beat. For once the driver was there and the car was there to compete, there's no reason why he wouldn't have been leading the championship. It even got to a point where a supercomputer did the calculation and assumed George would win by nearly 394 points to his name at the end of the season. It predicted him as clear #1 favorite ahead of drivers like Verstappen, Leclerc, Hamilton, and a certain Italian named Kimi Antonelli. Now, about that,
Kimi Antonelli wins the Chinese Grand Prix, the Japanese Grand Prix, the Miami Grand Prix, the Canadian Grand Prix, the Monaco Grand Prix. The teenager can't stop winning in Formula 1. That's 5 in a row.
Fast forward to right now, 7 races in, and George hasn't won a single one of them since the season opener in Australia. So who's been filling that gap? Mr. Pepperoni. He's been winning majority of all the races from the season. He had 5 consecutive race wins in a row. China, Japan, Miami, Canada, Monaco, which concluded in a Grand Slam. He couldn't be stopped. And so, the driver that no one expected to even be up to par with Russell this season was surpassing him in a way we haven't seen from a rookie in a pretty long time. So, who got it right? Well, Mercedes mostly did. Everyone kind of expected that to be right. The car was dominant, it was quick, pretty reliable in most cases, and overall, fairly consistent. But what no one expected was that the rookie would be running the show. I mean, quite literally, it was Russell's season to lead. He had the experience, he had the car, he had the championship right in his hands, and that's what all the experts were saying. But Kimi came through and swooped it all up to grab it for himself. Honestly speaking though, they weren't wrong. Mercedes still had it right, they just had the wrong driver. Ferrari. This one was actually nail on the head. Right from the beginning, everyone already expected Ferrari to be second runner-up and continuing with Mercedes for the championship lead and actually getting some victories while at it as well. The Hamilton and Leclerc balance as teammates was expected to be exciting. China proved that to be very sure, and Hamilton proved that Ferrari could win, now most recently back in Barcelona, where he grabbed his first F1 win with Ferrari and ended that near 2-year drought that they had ever since Mexico 2024. To add a little bit of cherry on top, this is also the same venue where the only other 7-time world champion also won their very first race for Ferrari too, so everything lined up really well with them. Red Bull, they kind of put that warning out to us themselves, and I feel like they downplayed it at the beginning of the season. At least I personally thought they did, especially having a new manufacturer, but it lined up pretty well here. And the person who, as expected, can always be brutally honest with Red Bull's struggles was Max Verstappen himself. He let us know from the very beginning. Max was right. Red Bull has really been just chasing and chasing and chasing, but they haven't been getting much anywhere. We've had 4-time world champion Max Verstappen starting in 5th place at the Barcelona Grand Prix. 5th. McLaren's had a fairly slow start. They missed the first 2 races of the season, so not the way you expect a World Championship constructor team to bounce back. And what makes it a bit sad is that during preseason testing, they looked fairly strong. But then they let us know immediately they weren't bringing upgrades pretty soon. Then they didn't start races, and then they keep DNFing races. So it hasn't really been a steady slope for them at all. They did have a nice little highlight in Barcelona, getting a podium with Norris, but I do feel this is still quite a few things that aligned all at once for them to get that result. I haven't seen that consistency from them just yet to say that's going to be able to stick around. McLaren is making that progress, so I'm definitely not going to count them out. I do feel slowly but surely they're understanding the engine more, they're slowly adding more upgrades, and they're becoming a bit more of a contender with Ferrari and Mercedes, but it's just going to take a little bit more time. Aston Martin, I mean, we all kind of saw this coming. When they showed up in preseason testing, we thought they were fashionably late. They had a sick livery, nice car design, and it looked extremely radical, and then they stopped on track. From there, Aston Martin and disaster became synonymous words throughout the media, and a lot of the pain came from the Honda engine. It got to the point where drivers were literally not able to finish the race because it was vibrating so much, and now it may not be vibrating, but they're still not finishing races either. It was such a grand downfall from a team who nearly had it all. Adrian Newey, literally the airbender, Fernando Alonso, 2-time world champion, and the Aston Martin team, which had the financial backings of many different investors to be able to see it throughout. But right now, I don't think we'll see much from them. The boldest prediction we have is a points finish, and that was grabbed in Monaco, so I think that's the biggest highlight they'll have all year. Getting further into the midfield though, this has been one of the most entertaining parts of the season. It's always very fun to watch when the midfield is unpredictable, because that's the best part of racing. You don't know who's going to win. Alpine's had Pierre Gasly putting in the work, and thankfully Colapinto's been able to now start putting in more points finishes as well, but with Gasly it's a much bigger deal. Last year he finished 18th in the standings with only 22 points to his name, and fast forward to this year, he's got 41 points and a reinstated Monaco podium, so he's actually been putting in a lot more effort and doubled his return in half the time. Haas and Alpine have definitely been pushing a lot further than people would have expected them to be, and it's excited a lot of things in the midfield pack. Oliver Behrman's been leading Haas, so that's another rookie, yet once again outperforming his more veteran teammate. And then we definitely can't count out VCarb either. They're also using the same Ford engine, and they're grabbing many more points too. Whenever it's reliable, they're putting up some really good results. The midfield is at its best when it's chaotic and unpredictable like this, so I really just wish to see this continue developing throughout the rest of the season too. Let's take a couple steps back and just reiterate that. So where did we get it right? Well, Mercedes is dominating, Ferrari is delivering, Red Bull's struggling behind a little bit, and same for McLaren, and then Aston Martin is just a mess at the moment. So where did we get it wrong? Russell leading the championship, McLaren being this far off pace in the season, and Cadillac being the dead bottom. I do feel Cadillac deserves some recognition here. First time being in F1, and they're still able to compete at a level that's not alarming. They've even outperformed some of the top teams. They've had more starts than McLaren, and they've had more race finishes than Aston Martin. That's got to be a win for something. As for my predictions from here, I do feel that we'll continue to see Ferrari and Mercedes go band for band as we get more championship contention. I think that we'll see a period of time where Ferrari is now leading and maybe they're dominating for a little bit, and then they just yo-yo between that back and forth. For George, I don't think he's done. I think he's still got more left in the tank, but this moment just reminds me of 2023 when Max Verstappen was leading and really putting in consistent results. And it's not like Checo was bad, he just couldn't compete with Max. I feel like George is in that Checo moment, and I think give him a little bit more time, he'll find more footing, and he may grab a few more race wins, but I don't think he'll still be able to borrow the Kimi. I expect the chaos from the midfield to only get more and more intense, because you still have teams like Audi and Williams making consistent upgrades, and when Audi finally gets Hulkenberg to stop his love affair with 11th place, they're also grabbing points that can now challenge or affect Alpine and even VCarb. For the backmarkers, I fully expect Cadillac to outperform Aston Martin through the rest of the season. They gained a second on them in Barcelona, and I do feel that this trajectory is going to keep compelling that while Aston Martin at least continues to find a way to get their car to run. Right now, that's the biggest issue they're facing. Anyway, that's Barcelona to Barcelona. If you want full race reviews for Monaco and Barcelona, I'll have those links in the description below. And feel free to like and subscribe if you want to see more of these contents that go over the race analyses and still keeping us caught up to speed with F1 even off the track. Once again, that's another Grand Prix presented by me, Tai Chi, and we'll go ahead and see you guys next time in Austria around the Red Bull Ring.